Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Very well. Welcome.
Good.
Welcome to the Art of Journaling. I'm very delighted to welcome Blaise Van Hecke, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Blaise first, and then I've got a few questions for her, and I'm sure you're all going to be delighted to meet her. She's a wonderful person. So Blaise, you own, or you're co-owner of a publishing firm at Busybird Publishing, and I know they do more than just publish. You can tell us a bit more in a moment. You can correct all my mistakes when I've finished sharing your bio. Blaise is a writer and a photographer, and I have been on the receiving end of her beautiful nurturing of authors when I published a book, and that was very special. That was way back. I met you in 2014.
Really?
I know, it feels like yesterday.
Time rushes by.
Yeah, you're not wrong, you're not wrong. In just 2 years ago, you published 3 books in 1 year. I'm in awe of you. That is just incredible. So one was a childhood memoir of growing up on a commune. I haven't read that one yet, so you've piqued my interest. The Road to Tralfamadore.
Yes.
Is bathed in river water. Sounds fantastic.
Yes.
And then you've co-authored on a couple of different authoring adventures, Live Your Truth and then Healthy Spirit. And then I have certainly been exposed to the book, which I think is fantastic, 12 Steps to Successful Publishing. You've written short stories, and you've been involved in anthologies. You've won, or you've come second in a competition for the Society of Women's Writers in Victoria. So you're pretty accomplished there, Blaise. I'm pretty impressed. You're also a very accomplished photographer. So some of your work in photography has been published on book covers and CD covers. And I've actually I was very fortunate to go to the book launch of this little gem, 50 Days for 50 Years. And I'm particularly interested in you talking about this today, because to me this is like a travel journal on steroids.
Yes.
Really, really good. And I loved it. I felt like I was there, and I was experiencing that Camino, walking the Camino de Santiago. I felt like I was doing it warts and all with you, like the bad and the ugly,
Yes.
which I think is really refreshing. You weren't just glossing over, what a wonderful spiritual journey I'm on. Oh no, my feet hurt, it's raining, I'm wet, really good. And actually I'm doing a virtual walk on the Camino at the moment. And so what I've been doing is each day I've been reading one of your days in your journal. So I'm kind of getting it from two approaches. So I just love that little book, and I'll put the link on how people can get that. I may have already done that in the Art of Journaling, but I'll do it again because it's a great little read. When you're not writing, you're running workshops at Busybird to skill people up in writing, editing, publishing, and really talking and speaking about publishing in general. And I loved the last line of what you told me here. What you love most is nurturing an author through the self-publishing process and the look on their face when they finally have their book in their hands. I remember that moment like it was yesterday, March 2015. No, the book, you said to me, I think the box of books should be arriving any minute. And I went out to my front door because I'd been at work, and there was this box of books. It was like, oh, it was so wonderful. And I think if I could have got them all over the floor and just bathed in them, I would have. But I remember hugging one and saying to Wes, look at this, I've given birth to a book. So I've been on the receiving end of that nurturing and hand-holding and encouragement to keep going. I think, there's not another edit in me. I don't think I can go through this. Yes, you can. Come on, keep going. So thank you for agreeing to get together with me today. And I guess I want to really inspire some of the people who are either just starting out on journaling, or they've been writing for a long time and need some encouragement as to what they might do next. So I wanted to go back a bit though. I mean, we sort of heard a little bit about your childhood memoir, but I'd like to know, have you always been a writer, and how and when you got started?
I think when I was a kid, because I grew up on a commune, I was homeschooled. And a big part of that was reading. We were encouraged to read from the day dot, from when, as far back as I can remember. And we were encouraged to do anything creative, whether it was painting rocks or making up stories or, you know, whatever it was that was creative, we were encouraged to do, because my mum is creative.
Yep.
And she was a single mum, so she had to find lots of ways to keep 4 kids entertained.
Stop that awful "I'm bored" statement.
Yes, yes. And I can remember saying that a lot as a kid, and she would say, "Oh, bored kids are boring." So I think it's just it's almost like it's part of my makeup to create. You know, you mentioned that I do a lot of photography. That's actually where I started, and that's where I met Kev, my husband.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to actually be a photographer for National Geographic.
Oh, wow.
That was one of my aims. So I wanted to be a journalist, you know, take the photos and write the story. But I wasn't really very confident in hindsight, you know. In hindsight, I could have done it, but I just wasn't. I was very quiet. I'm an introvert. I'm a very quiet person, and I think I probably would have been eaten alive if I tried to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But so I think essentially I am a storyteller. I think that's, if you look at my photography and my art and writing, I think just essentially I am a storyteller. And to me, telling stories is about trying to make sense of your world. You know, what makes sense or articulate things around you. And so maybe I've just needed to do that more than some people, I don't know. So I was writing, say, in high school, but it was more photography that was my love back then.
Yep.
And so it wasn't really until maybe 15 years ago that I really decided to concentrate more on writing, which was around the time that I started the publishing business. And really, you can't coach people to write or in the art of writing if you're not doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So that is why I do so much of it. It's sort of, I have to walk the talk. And I'm always learning, definitely always learning. And yeah, so I think just maybe in the last 15 years is when I've really concentrated on it mostly, but I feel like I've always been doing it.
Yeah, in one form or another. You've been telling your story in one way or another, haven't you?
Yeah.
So this little gem, 50 Days for 50 Years, really is like a travel journal, and I thought it might be fun to focus a little bit on that for just a moment. And I guess, what are your tips if someone's going to travel? How do they capture that in a way that the stories will then flow out of them? And I have a really practical question. You know, did you have the idea for this book before you did the Camino, or did it come to you on the Camino, or was it an afterthought? I've journaled all my thoughts about this trip. Oh, I should put it into a book.
Well, a few things kind of conspired to bring it all together. First of all, I did the Camino to celebrate turning 50. And so that's where the 50 days comes from. And so I decided that, you know, on average, the Camino takes about 35 to 40 days if you do it, you know, sort of every day. So I decided, well, I knew I wasn't very fit, so I'm going to take a bit longer to do it. So my whole trip was 50 days. And then before I left, I thought, I expected that I would journal. I wanted to keep a journal. I didn't know if I could produce something that was publishable, but I was hoping that I would. So I just took a blank journal with the idea that I would just write every day and see what comes out of it. Most of what is in the book is pretty much taken from the journal, but cleaned up, because when you're writing, you tend to use more flow of consciousness, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. So sometimes you have to bring some context into it.
Yes.
So a little bit of, yes, I was going to journal, and yes, I thought it would be a book. I also thought that actually, you know, it makes sense that if I'm a publisher and a writer that I produce something at the end of it. So all of those sorts of things kind of conspired to come together. And I wanted it to just be, I guess, a guide for anyone else wanting to do the walk. A guide for them, in terms of how to prepare for it, what to expect. But also I thought it was I hope, and I have had a lot of feedback in this way, that it is like going on the walk when you read it. And because it's a day by day, and I tried to keep it sort of 1 to 2 pages per day, you can actually kind of go through not only the physical journey, but the emotional journey that I went through.
Yep.
And that was kind of what I was aiming for. Yeah.
Well, I really found that. I felt like I was on the walk. I remember I was reading towards the end of it when I was in the car. We were travelling, and I was almost, I said to Wes when we finished, "Oh, I'm disappointed it's over." That's really good writing if you feel like you've been there.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you do run a very successful publishing business, I guess called Busybird. I'd love to know, first of all, how it got its name, and then what suggestions you might have for someone who is creating content all the time with their journaling, with their writing, with their photography, whatever it might be, how they might then take that content and develop it into something.
Yeah, good questions. The name Busybird actually came about in 1998. That's how long we kind of, because before publishing we were doing design work and photography and things like that. So Busybird has actually been in some form or other since 98, which was when we first registered our name. I've just always loved birds. But I think because I grew up in the bush, I was always doing silly things like hiding under blankets and watching the birds. And, when I was a kid, we had those big posters that used to get from the zoo. I don't know if you ever saw them, but they'd have, a whole lot of different birds with their Latin names and things like that. And I was always, trying to match the names with the birds. So simple as that, really. I just like birds. And again, like so many things, organically they grow into something as you kind of grow as well. It's kind of like you start to iron out exactly who you are and what you offer and all of those sorts of things. So Busybird is meant to be, a very down-to-earth, community-orientated entity where we hope that we nurture people, hence the idea of a nest, where you can grow and get confident to then be pushed out of the nest and hopefully fly.
But even if you don't, you'd pick people up. That's my sense.
Oh, yes. Yes, we're not quite as mean as a mother bird.
That's right.
Now I can't remember the second part of the question. About doing your own work. Yes. Look, I get so excited about any conversations I have with people about any kind of creative process that they might consider, because so much can be put into a book. And I think that process of an idea in your head to a printed, an actual book in your hand is so satisfying. And it can have it is terrifying. Yes, it is terrifying.
It's like your soul on offer.
Yes.
I heard someone recently say, I saw my book for sale for 50 cents at a garage sale, and I felt like, right, just trample all over my soul. That's all it's worth. But yes.
But the thing is, someone might buy that book for 50 cents and you could actually really make an impact on them.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Yeah. That's how I see it.
Most of the books that have made significant impacts on me I borrowed from a library. Didn't pay a cent.
Exactly.
So, it's not the price or the cost.
It's actually, to me, it's as rewarding for the creator as it is for the person who reads it, because you learn so much and grow so much through the process. When it comes to thinking about what you could possibly put in a book, I mean, anything. You could put, just say you love taking photos of, I don't know, sunsets and what have you. You could do a little, coffee table book with poems or sayings or something like that. That is a really nice gift, then that you could give people. But you could be thinking about your life story or any kind of events that have happened in your life that you have gotten through that you feel like could show someone else how they can get through hard times. Or if you have a business, just say you love cooking and you have some favorite family recipes, you could put those into a book. It's so endless actually what you could do. For instance, you have your oils and you have all of these things, your journaling and all of that. You could marry so many of those things into a book, like a coffee table book or something like that. So it is pretty endless. And I think when people quite often people have so much information in their heads or life experience that they don't even realise how much they have that they could give to other people in form of a book.
Very true. Very true. And it's an amazing process to actually do that. And there's a lot of closure that comes on, life that's happened and revisiting and reflecting and writing from that when you're writing, your story versus writing fiction. But so that's fantastic. So just to sort of finish up, I'll obviously post where people can contact you, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But what are you passionate about right now, Blaise?
Oh, that's a big question. What is really worrying me at the moment, under the kind of, I know I probably didn't want to bring COVID into this conversation, but unfortunately it's part of our
for most of us, isn't it?
Yeah. Because what I have noticed, because I am talking to so many people, what I have noticed is that while people seem to have more time, the current situation has zapped them of creativity. And it also has, there's so much fear around because we can't plan for the future. And so they feel like they're a bit paralysed in terms of creating something. And so I worry about mental health.
Yeah.
And so what I am encouraging anyone that I talk to, what I'm encouraging people to do is journal. And I know that you can relate to this, is because if you don't feel creative, that's fine. But writing down your thoughts can be really helpful to articulate the fears that you have, or to be grateful for things that you do have, because while yes, we're not in a great situation, we're not at war and we're not living on rations and we have enough food and shelter and all of those sorts of things. So there's lots to be grateful for, but our quality of life is different than it was 6 months ago. So I think journaling as a kind of standby, if you like, to something further that you might want to create, at least you have these thoughts and ideas put into a book as you have them that you can look back on later if you want to. There might be some really good kernels in there.
Yes, actually I listened to a podcast recently, and the speaker was talking about maybe it feels a bit overwhelming at the moment, but could you write some lists?
Yes.
The top 10 things that you're doing differently because of COVID. What are the top 10 things that you're grateful for actually about COVID? What's it done that's actually been a positive? And they are there. And lists seem achievable. They don't feel daunting or overwhelming, in particular if you are feeling overwhelmed by what's happening in the world. The thought of writing about it can feel a bit like, oh, I'm going to open Pandora's box and then I'm not going to be able to cope with all of this. So lists can be a really good way to start. And then if that feels good and resonates with people, I encourage them to take one thing on that list and expand it. Just write a bit more about it, and you may find that your list is actually the kernel of a book.
Yeah.
You know,
Or you know, it might become a poem, or you know, some little quotes of your own that you can then, you know, you might dabble in some drawing or painting or something like that. That, you know, those sorts of little ideas can expand.
We're going to, one of my interviews in a week or two is going to be an interview with someone who does art journaling. So journaling.
Great.
So, you know, looking at all different types of media, you know, the written word is only one, as you said, so eloquently, it's only one form of expression. And it's about expressing what's going on for us so that we can look at it, reflect on it, and not be overwhelmed by it, because it's in overwhelm that our mental health particularly suffers. Okay, so a couple of bonus questions for the viewers. Where's your favourite place to write, Blaise? Where do you...
I don't actually, to tell the truth, have a favourite place. I think it's just where I can get away from everybody. I'm in a house with 5 adults, you know, people saving for houses and what have you. So it's hard to find space away from everybody. So, I just try and find a little corner somewhere. I do have a desk in my bedroom, but it's not, in winter it's not that cozy, so I don't, but sometimes just even sitting in front of the fire on the weekend, we tend to have a open fire, so I really love doing that, or on the back decking in the sun.
Nice. And do you like to write with a pen and paper, or are you a computer girl? Definitely,
I always start with pen and paper. I find that it really helps me to formulate my thoughts, and then I'll obviously transform that onto the computer.
There's really good brain science for why that works so well. So it's about integrating both sides of your brain, so that's why it feels so good to write. But we don't do a lot of it these days. We do so much more on our computers, so pick up a pen is a really good thing. So how can people contact you if they'd like more information, Blaise?
Yes, well, we're on Facebook as Busybird Publishing. We have a website, Busybird Publishing, so you can obviously go and check us out there. Happy for people to email me, blaise@busybird.com.au. I'm pretty, even if you just Google my name, it's an unusual name, so even if you Googled me, you'd be able to find me quite easily. We have tons of really good resources on our social media pages as well as our website. So if people are they're just trying to find their way, you know, get the feelers out in terms of writing, we have I do lots of blogs and live videos and all sorts of things on those pages that people can access to sort of get started with. You know, I even put prompts up on Instagram, so like a writing prompt, so they can be good to journal with as well.
Great. And you have an open mic night, don't you? So I haven't got to yet because, well, life's just a bit chaotic. But you know, if someone wrote a poem and then they wanted to actually test it on a live audience, you know, that's something they could do. And you run great workshops, half-day workshops, and correct me if I'm wrong, you did a retreat to Bali for writers.
Oh, yes. I'm actually meant to be there right now.
Sorry.
It was this month or next week we were supposed to be there for a 6-day retreat. Unfortunately, we can't. So, yes, we do lots of workshops. Obviously, I am still doing things on Zoom. So we do have our open mic night, third Wednesday of every month at night on Zoom. I have a Publish for Profit group every month, which is the first Wednesday of every month, so people can learn about the writing and publishing process. I have a life writing workshop coming up on the 28th of this month. That's also via Zoom. So while I love actually seeing people in person, that's the next best thing. And you know, for a lot of people, the last few sessions I've had, people have live too far away from me anyway, so they've actually been happy that Zoom is available so that they can come in. A lot of people from down your way, Mornington Peninsula, actually.
It's a very creative zone down this way. So thank you so much, Blaise. Is there anything else that you would like to finish with to share with
Yeah, I would say, you know, a lot of people, there's, I think the biggest hurdle for people is fear in terms of writing. And what I would say is feel the fear and do it anyway. I know that's a well-used saying, but just, you know, just start small and just dabble in it. No one has to actually see any of it straight away until you feel confident with that. And really, the only way to create something is to turn up every day and work on it. So whether you just put 10, 15 minutes a day to write in your journal to start with, and then expand that into more writing practice, you'll get there. Yeah. And it does become something that you feel the need to do all the time after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Totally. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today, Blaise. It's been really fun to catch up like this and to be able to share it with others as well. So, yeah, stay well, stay safe, and, I'll see you on a Zoom call somewhere soon.
Okay, thank
Bye
you.
for now. See ya.
See ya.